This is the Moyu Rs3m. It has an amazing feeling, it's really fast, it has magnets, and it even has a full-fledged spring compression system. And the best thing about it, it's only $9. This is the Gan11 M Pro. It's also super fast, it has adjustable magnets, and a much better tensioning system. Also, the magnets are not just what we're normally used to, but more about that later. The only bad thing about this cube is that if you want to buy it, you'll have to sell your car, your phone, and mortgage your house because it's $65. So in this video, I'm basically trying to compare a $9 cube to a $65 flagship. Now, let's get into the comparison. We're going to be comparing 5 things in this review. First of all, we're going to look at speed and corner cutting. Second of all, we're going to look at the feel of the cubes. Third of all, we're going to be looking at the adjustable tension systems. Fourth of all, we're going to be looking at the magnets. And finally, we're going to be looking at the performance. Let's start with speed and corner cutting. Let's kick it off with the Moyu Rs3m. By the way, if you want to buy either of these cubes, I'll have 2 links in the description. First one being the Moyu Rs3m, second one being the Gan11 M Pro. So let's take a look at the speed and corner cutting of this cube. So as you can see, this cube is really fast, and it's even a little too fast for me. So the Cubicle actually came out with a version of this cube that has extra magnets in the corner, and I actually got those magnets and it feels much better. If you're gonna buy this cube, I would definitely recommend buying those extra magnets as it adds a lot more stability and it's a lot more comfortable spamming TPS because you won't lock up as much. Speaking of lockups, there are barely any lockups because as you can see, corner cutting is insane. It goes up to almost line to line. Regular corner cutting, although regular corner cutting is really good on this cube, reverse not so much. It doesn't really even go line to line, and even a tiny bit further, it barely even goes. So corner cutting on this cube is really great, but some of the reverse corner cuts feel like I'm turning way too hard, and that's just not very comfortable. Next up, the Gan11 M Pro. It's really fast thanks to the lightness of this cube, as it's only 63 grams. It might be even faster than the Moyu Rs3m, but it's actually a lot more controllable because of the magnets. So this cube is not like any other cube that we've seen before. I don't know if you can see the reflections, but there is actually a magnet in the core. If you want to learn about this more in depth, you can check out my Gan11 M Pro video by clicking the iCard in the top right corner of your screen. So it's really fast, but you really feel the control because you can feel a slight pull on the inside, and that's keeping it nice and stable. Now let's take a look at corner cutting. I don't even know if we have to look at this because it's a Gan cube, but yep, 60-degree corner cutting as usual. I don't even know why cubes corner cut this much because no one's gonna be messing up by that much to solve. And reverse corner cutting, line to line, easy, little further. Wait a sec. Wow. Reverse corner cutting is really important because you could easily mess up like this. This cube's corner cutting, it's a Gan cube, what do you expect? It's absolutely amazing. So even if I'm corner cutting on this cube, it just feels like I'm moving into the next turn. Another thing that this cube does that other cubes don't is that it just pulls the pieces over. Because of the magnets in the core, without even doing anything, this cube automatically aligns by itself. So even if you don't finish a turn, it'll just finish it for you. In the end, both of these cubes are really amazing in this category, but I'm gonna have to give the winner to the Gan11 M Pro because of its superior corner cutting. Going back to the Moyu Rs3m, the feeling is really nice. It feels smooth and hollow. It's also just scratchy enough so that it's a little bit more controllable. The feeling is a little bit hard to explain, but again, if you want to see it more in depth, you can check out my review. Moving on to the Gan11 M Pro, it's a really papery smooth feeling, and if you have the Gan XS, it feels really similar. I really love the clickiness of this cube. The magnets are on the outside, so you feel each click is very defined. Meanwhile, on the Rs3m, it's a lot less defined because the magnets are more deep inside. You still feel that slight pull in between each turns because of the core magnets, but you also get that defined click at the end of each turn as well. Unlike the Rs3m, it's really papery smooth, but it's not really buttery smooth like the Gan XS. I'm a really big fan of the Gan cube feeling, that nice swishy smooth feeling. So for those of you who don't like the feeling of any other Gan cube, I probably wouldn't recommend this cube. If you're a big Gan fanboy like this guy, or this guy, well then I think you'll really love this cube. So I don't really have a winner for this category, so we'll just call it a tie because they both feel super duper amazing. For the adjustable tensioning system, we'll be looking at these cubes side by side. They're both really easy to adjust, and you don't have to use a tool for either of them. The Moyu Rs3m has the classic Moyu spring compression system that can also be found in the GTS3M, and if you want to watch that video, click the iCard in the top right corner. But there's nothing for the screw. The screw's just a normal screw, and the spring compression has a completely different system, so I'm not a huge fan of it. However, it does help you achieve even tension on every side. The Gan11 M Pro, however, has two parts. First of all, there's a blue GES nut which controls the tension, and I don't know if you can see it, but there's also a clear thing under the GES nut which is for the spring compression. Personally, I like the Gan one a lot better because it's a lot easier to have even spring compression and tension on every side. Also, you don't need springs and screws, so it feels much lighter than the Moyu Rs3m. In the end, I'm gonna have to give this one to the Gan11 M Pro, but the Moyu Rs3m still has a chance to make a comeback. Next up, we'll look at the magnets. First of all, the Moyu Rs3m. Splitting the edge piece in half, the magnets are pretty normal, but like I said earlier, they do come a little bit weak, so I think the magnets are pretty bad, but if you have a second magnet on it, it does feel much better. Next up is the Gan11 M Pro. It actually has adjustable magnets in all 8 of the corners, and when you turn one of these levers, it actually turns all of them on the actual piece, so you only have to do it 8 times. But that's not the only magnet. There's also a magnet in the corner stock that connects to the core of the cube. As I said before, if you want to see this in more detail, you can watch that video in the top right corner of your screen. So I think the obvious winner in this category was the Gan11 M Pro because it just has much more customization options. In the end, none of those past categories matter if one of them outperforms the other. For this category, we're going to do an average of 5 on each of these cubes to see on which cube I average better. This category is going to count for 3 points because it matters the most out of all the other ones. Let's start with the Moyu Rs3m. So in the end, I averaged a 15.446. So for a cube that's not my main, not so bad. So in the end, I averaged 13.634. In the end, the Gan11 M Pro won by a ton of points, but the question that you wanted answered when you clicked on this video is, can this even compare to this cube? And the answer is definitely. It's really amazing. It came in a close second in all of these categories. On the cube that I made before the Rs3m 2020, I was averaging around 16 seconds, and just getting this cube reduced that average to a 15. But getting this cube reduced that average to a 13. So in the end, this is obviously a much better cube, and if you have the money for it, you should definitely go out and buy it. But if you don't have a ton of money, this one's just $9, and you can save the rest for a much better setup, including things like back mat timer, a cubing mat so when you drop the cube, it won't destroy your desk, and a cubing bag for when you want to bring this stuff around. This has been Cubing for Fun, and I'll see you in the next one.